What's happening, YouTube? It's Tritonius Rex here, and I'm coming at you today with a little different type of video. I'm going to go over all the weapons that are currently in Warzone. This is as of March 23rd, 2021, and how I feel they fit into the meta based on my skill level, based on people my KD range 1.0 to 1.1, 1.5, that range there. Based on how easy the gun is to use, how fast the time to kill is, and that kind of thing. And how effective it is, also taking into account like mobility, ADS time, all of that. And I kind of go over that in this video. So if you like the content, hit the like button on the video, subscribe to the channel, and come back for more. Peace. Modern Warfare, and I'm going to put them in order according to these 5 categories. I'm going to go meta that are easy to use. So those are like top tier for new or average players like myself that also shred. Meta harder to use, so this would be ones like the DMR. I consider still meta. I still 2 taps. I have a really good video on my YouTube out there, you should check it out. We'll get to those as we come. That's also things like the AMAX is going to be meta hard to use because it has a really rough recoil, but if you hit your shots it's really good. So let's get into it. So the R90 shotgun, this is like pretty easy to use, but it's not very good right now. So I would say it's almost meta and it's hard to use. Don't use the 725, it's trolling. Origin 12. Almost meta, easy. We should probably change these categories actually. Almost meta. Not meta. Off meta. So for the weapon, okay, so now we're making a change here real quick. I'm sorry in the middle of this, but so almost meta and easy to use. So a gun has to be also really close to that top tier, which the Origin 12 isn't anymore. The Gallo and the Street Sweeper just do it better. This is a VLK is the same thing, not meta, off meta. I wouldn't say don't use it. The only reason I say don't use the 725, I know there's like this sniper build, but it's just garbage. The Jack 12 could be meta when the FAR gets nerfed and it's just fully auto, so you just pull the trigger and it fires away. This isn't meta. The AN94 is not meta. It's off meta, and it has that weird hyper burst first round 2 fire. This is what I was saying. AMAX is meta, but it's hard to use. This is hard to use for a beginner, hard to use for an average player. You have to put a lot of rounds, a lot of time in. The Growl, almost meta, easy to use. Another one, that thing's just a laser beam. It always has been, always will be. Ram 7. See, this is where I would put it in almost meta. We're gonna get this to almost meta because the Ram 7, I'm gonna rank each tier as far as how hard, easiest to hardest. So easiest will be on the left, hardest will be on the right. So pay attention to that. So AN94 definitely stays on there. Right now, AMAX is the only one we got. Easiest on the left. Jack 12, definitely. It's just to pull the trigger if you're up close and you just shred them. Growl, you have to hit your shots at long range. The Ram is another one that you can really just laser beam people with here, but it's really hard to control the recoil. And if you use it as a close range gun, it's easy to use. But I'm going to put it right here at almost meta, and it's going to be on the hard end of the scale. Kilo, this is almost meta. This is super easy to use, but it's not, I don't know. It's easier than a Growl. The Growl has slightly more recoil, but it doesn't hit as hard as a Growl. So you need to hit more shots. So I'm going to put it behind the Growl in ease because of how many more shots you have to hit. Odin, this is not meta, off meta. The fire rate's too slow. And it's hard to use because you have to hit a consistent amount of shots. So down here, I'd go Origin, probably in front of the R9. I would go VLK. Yeah, okay, so I would go like this, honestly. So Origin, R9, VLK, and then we have the Odin and the AN94. Yeah, and that's just because of the weird fire rate. M13. I don't know about the M13. This one is like, it has like 0 recoil, but it shoots marshmallows, so you have to hit a ton of headshots. So I want to put this at almost meta and put it behind the M13 just because it feels like it doesn't melt as fast. The Ram has way more recoil though. It's harder to control, so we'll go with that. M4A1 for me personally, this gun shreds, and I feel like it could be meta, but it's not. It's really close down here to almost meta. It's probably the easiest AR to use because it hits the hardest. FR56, don't use it. It's a troll. AK-47, I believe this is the... Yeah, this is the Modern Warfare one. This could be meta. It's hard enough, but its fire rate's kind of weird. It has a really hard recoil pattern, so I put it back here in almost meta, but at the harder end of the kilo, or harder end of the spectrum. FN Scar is not meta. Don't do it. It's easier than the Odin and the AN-94 because it has pretty low recoil if you build it right, but it only has a 30 round clip, so that's hard. Almost meta foul, but it's really hard to use. The foul like hits really hard if you hit 2 headshots, but it's got a ton of recoil. The far for new players or beginning players, I think this is almost meta way at this end. It's so the recoil pattern is literally a zigzag. If you haven't shot this thing at a wall or watched any videos, the Farah just literally zigzags. It's super hard to control. If you use it as close range gun, it can probably go up here in the middle. But if you're using it for anything like AR wise, so I'll balance it out. I'll put it right here behind the AK because it has a slightly more difficult pattern than the AK, but it can also be used better up close with more ammo. The LC-10, I don't have a ton of practice with the LC-10. It seems like it's really good, and it's got like 0 recoil. So I'm gonna put this at the almost meta, like easy to use end. ISO doesn't kill fast enough, but it's another, and it's got a really weird like visual recoil. So I put it down here in the middle and off meta. M91, this thing is a troll. It's just not good. Vector, the Fennec. This is almost meta, and it's more like in between the M4 and the ground, in my opinion, as far as ease of use. The Vector, aka the Fennec, which is what it's known as in Modern Warfare. The Vector, yeah, the Fennec, it shoots super fast. It has a really fast time to kill, up within like the first 12 meters, something like that. You'd have to look the stats up. But I believe that because of the 40 round mag, it's not. If it had a 60 round mag like the MP7, it'd be meta. It'd be an easy to use meta gun because the time to kill on it is so ridiculously fast. But the fact that it only has 40 rounds, it goes in almost meta, and then, you know, put it right here in the middle of difficulty. Striker, don't use. This is a troll. It's terrible. The P90, this is another one. I haven't used it in a while because it just doesn't have the time to kill, and it shoots with like 0 recoil. But this would be probably another easy to use off meta gun where if you really want to have some fun, troll around, you could probably put it in there. Honestly, I don't know. I'm thinking about moving the M13 down. Yeah, the M13's off meta. It's not good. It's just not good, but it's really easy to use. The AUG here, it's another problem. It's got really bad mobility. I would call it off meta. It's not really a gun that a noob should use because you have to put a sight on it. The freaking iron sights on it are atrocious. But it is an SMG. It's easier than the ISO, but it's not as easy as like these shotguns. So I'll put it right there. Bison's terrible. Don't use it. MP7. I'd put this in the almost meta category up here. Probably right after the M4, honestly. This thing can still shred, but it's not as fast as the FAR. You have to hit headshots. Actually, it's behind the Vector. It's a little harder to use than the Vector because it doesn't hit as hard as... It's a little harder. If you hit headshots with it, it absolutely melts people, but it can shoot marshmallows past like 20 meters, so... I think it's really good. It's one of my favorite guns to still use, so I put it in the middle of the almost meta difficulty level. Cold War. Is this the Cold War MP5? Which MP5 is this? Let me make sure. This is the Modern Warfare MP5. Right now, on March 25th, it is the easiest of the almost metas, in my opinion. But it will go into the meta easy when the FAR leaves. I'm talking the meta is going to be like the top 3, like top 1 or 2 weapons that can play that category. The FFAR plays that category. Uzi, I would call not meta, off meta. It's needs the right build. It's pretty easy to use. It has like 0 recoil. Combat knife is a troll. Riot shield's a troll. PKM, I would call this no, almost meta. I don't know. We'll come back to the PKM. Cali sticks are a troll. RPGs are troll. We're gonna put all these in the troll category. Joker, Strela, the pistol, the 1911, 357, 50. The M19s though. Dual M19s are really hard to use, but they are off meta. I wouldn't put them in the don't use troll category. So I'm going to put them there. The PKM, the MG34, I feel like is a troll, in my opinion, especially for a new player. It has a shit ton of recoil. The Renetti, this is another one. You can use the Renetti. It's a little harder. They don't hit as hard as the M19, but if you put the right attachments on it, it can be really good. Dragunov is a troll. We'll come back to these snipers. Rytech is a troll. HDR. EBR is a troll. Car 98. This depends. Whether this is meta easy or meta hard depends on how good of a sniper you are. Because sniping isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, I'm going to put this in meta hard, but it's easier to use in the AMAX, in my opinion, because you just have to hit one shot. The HDR, same thing. I'm going to put this a little behind the AMAX, though, because it's a heavier, like, it's not a quick scoping gun. You can't get yourself out of, like, those close-range fights as easily with the, like, average build. The AX50 is almost meta. It's a sniper. I would put it probably right here. It's pretty, I don't know. For me, it's pretty hard to use. I don't like the AX50. It doesn't have the same hit. It's got a lot of bullet drop, but if you hit headshots, it's really good, just like any other, you know, any other sniper. MK2 Carbon's troll. It takes like 3 headshots to kill somebody. Crossbow's a troll. The reload time is redonkulous. SKS. As much as I love this gun, the recoil pattern is ridiculous, and the FAL just does it better, as well as the DMR. I would say that's don't use. That's a troll. The SA87. Now, this is an LMG that I'm going to put... If we're ranking these left to right off difficulty, we're going to put the SA87 right before the Odin, because it has a bigger mag. The recoil is really not that bad, and it hits pretty hard, so we're going to put it up there. The SA87 is fun, and if it's a gun you haven't used before, I'm going to put it in front of the Scar, actually, too. Because it has a bigger mag than the Scar, so it's a fun gun to use. Let's get to this PKM. This PKM we're going to put in almost meta. I don't know what the difficulty to use it is. Because of the reload and all that good stuff, it's got very little recoil, and it hits pretty hard. Because of the reload time, I'm going to put it in between the Kilo and the AK. For difficulty. SPR, I don't think it's meta right now. It's a really good in-between of the Car 98 and the HDR. I'm gonna move the HDR down as well. Car 98 is the king of the snipers right now. It's just super good. It's the only thing you really have a chance to fight the AUG with if the AUG player is really good. Honestly, SPR is pretty easy to use. It's got a quick like reload time, so I'm gonna put it in the middle. I'm gonna put the HDR like in front of the AX50 because in my opinion it's easier to use than the AX50, but I think the SPR is much easier to use than both of those. So Sigma, nope, 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 nope. These are all troll. Hauer 77. I personally think this gun, especially for an average player, a new player. Some players can use this and make it look really good, but the Hauer 77, the reload, the pump time in between rounds is just terrible. Gallo. This is, I think it's meta. It's easy meta. It's just super easy to use. It's super mobile. The only problem is that you can't really use it in trios or quads because it takes a lot of rounds to kill somebody. Street Sweeper, almost meta. Just because of the reload time, I'm not going to make it, it's pretty fucking easy to use. You just kind of stand there and pull the trigger down. I'm going to put it the highest tier of meta for a new player. You're going to get a lot of kills with this thing. I have a video coming out on it in the next couple days, so check that out. I'm going to put the Street Sweeper in the top of the top. Gallo's the same thing. It's super easy to use. I think that thing absolutely shreds. I think when the FFAR gets nerfed, it's going to be nuts. The Holger, it's off meta. It's easy to use, like the SA87. It's got a little more recoil, so I'm going to put it behind it, though. 1911s, pistols are trolls, magnums. Diamatis, though, these are almost meta. They're hard. They're a lot harder to use now, though, because the best way to use them is single So for ranking these left to right off difficulty, I would put this before sniping, right before these super high recoil guns, weird to control guns. But yeah, Diamati's, even using dual Diamati's is really good. Honestly, the Stoner, this thing hits hard. This is probably, and it's an LMG, so you can shoot a lot of shots. And it doesn't have that bad of a reload time if you put the 120 fast mag on it. So I'm going to put it towards the front of almost meta. I would almost put it like right here, honestly. I think it's really close to being meta. RPD is not meta. It's not as good as the Stoner. It's kind of close, but I haven't used it a ton, so I honestly can't give you a good feeling of it. But from the times I have used it and picked it up off the ground, it's pretty good. But that's just for a ground loot gun. It's really slow ADS, really slow movement, all that stuff you get with an LMG, and it just doesn't hit as hard as the Stoner. Easier to use than these other LMGs up here, though, so I'll put it up there. M60, this thing's trash. The fire rate's so slow, it's bad. It's just bad. M82, another one. I wouldn't use this. It's off meta. It's got a weird fire rate. But it's usable, I guess. It's not like terrible. It's not like a troll. LW3 is almost meta. This is a really good fire, like really good bullet velocity. It's got that one-shot kill potential. Where'd I put the other snipers? It's a little harder to use than the SPR, so I'm gonna put it right there. Where's the HDR? Oh no, wait. It's a little harder to use than the HDR and the X50 right now because of the optic that you can put on it. Pellington, same thing. It's a little harder to use. DMR, like I said, this is a meta. I think the DMR, personally from my use and from what you can see on my YouTube video, I think the DMR is extremely good still, but you have to be good with it. It's semi-auto. You can really rip through people. If you hit headshots, it's disgusting, but it's really hard to use, so I'm putting it at the farthest end. MK9 Bruin, it's the Bruin. I mean, it's good, but it's not, like, great. I'll put it in front of the... Nah, I think it's worse than the Stoner, but I don't know if it's easier to use than the Stoner, so we'll keep it right there. The AUG, meta, easy, obviously. You guys know that right now. You just shoot at people. You just burst them down. M16, meta, easy. Honestly, in my opinion, the Type 63 is not meta, off meta. The recoil is too bad. The DMR just does it better. It's really hard to use. It has a really bad recoil pattern. I would put it back here behind the AN94, actually. MP5 from Cold War. I think this thing's meta. This has super fast time to kill, but it has a nasty recoil pattern. It is an SMG, though, so you're going to use it at closer ranges, so I'm going to put it right here behind the Kar 98. And like I said, this Kar 98 placement right here being the easiest of the hard meta guns to use. It's just if you're good at sniping, that's when it becomes easy. The MP5 is the same thing. It can be in easy if you're really good with SMGs, if you're really good with recoil control on an SMG, but you just have to know. You have to know. The Milano, this is bad. It has such a slow time to kill. It's bad. AK-74U, it's an SMG. It's got a slow time to kill. I would put it, I don't know, like back here with these other SMGs, probably in front of the AUG because it's a little better than the Modern Warfare AUG. KSP is terrible. Takes like 3 bursts to hit somebody. Bullfrog. This is another one that's almost meta. It's super easy to use. Doesn't have a lot of recoil. Has a ton of bullets. It's definitely, like, behind the Street Sweeper, it's definitely the easiest. What's next? The MAC-10, meta. Easy to use meta. It's easier to use than these. It's not as easy as the Gallo. Grauza. Now, this is a gun that's very interesting to me. I really like the Grauza. I think it's super easy to use. If you use it as like an SMG, it's got a really good mobility. In my opinion, it's just really good, but it's being outshined by the Fafar right now, and that's kind of a problem. So I would put the Grauza in almost meta. I think it's easy to use. I would put it right behind the M4 because it has a lot shorter range. So and this Jack 12 for East gets moved up here, but the Bullfrog is better, in my opinion, than the Jack 12. Street Sweeper, maybe. The Bullfrog has a pretty good range, though. The Finn, this is not meta, off meta. Building this is the hardest part. Building this gun is the hardest part of using this gun. I just don't know what the build for the Finn is. I do have a Finn video on my YouTube page, though. So if you want to take a look at what I use there, the gun hasn't changed since then. The FFAR, meta. Now, it depends on what you're using it for. If you're using the FFAR as a sniper support, it's a little harder to use. I put it in the hard category. But if you're using it as your close range gun, The recoil is still kind of weird. We're gonna put it before the AUG and the M16, but after the Mac 10. I think the Mac 10's easier. I think the AUG's harder, so I'm gonna put it right there. Meta easy. All right, and that's how it is. Craig, this is not very good, but it's super easy to use. It has really low recoil. Put it right there. Harder than the shotguns and the SMGs. AK-47. I think this is going to be an almost meta gun. Right up by the Grauza and the Stoner. I'm going to put it behind the Grauza. It has a really good time to kill. XM4, same thing. I love the XM4. I'm a little biased towards it. I've had some really good games with it. I had a 19 piece, I think, in Rebirth with it. So, which was before I started streaming and recording and stuff again. So it's not on my YouTube, unfortunately. But the XM4, I think, if built right, can be really good. And without the FFAR around, I think it'll be a really good gun. Probably a little worse than the Grauza, and they're about the same difficulty to use. So QBC, I don't think this is meta. The time to kill on is just terrible. But it's easy to use though, so it's kind of appealing for newer players. So I guess if we're talking about newer players, I'll put it up here. The Origin. Yeah, okay. And then the Farah. This is another one. I thought the Farah was already in here. What the fuck? Didn't we already place the Farah? Yeah, we placed the Farah already. Move this shit down here. We'll put this back up here. All right, and then the LC10's in here too already. The hell? LC10. That back up here. Model 680. This is a troll. The gun's terrible. AS Val. Honestly, the time to kill on this thing is insanely fast. I'm gonna put it up here, right behind the Bullfrog as far as ease of use. So this is what we come up with. Let's look through it though. I'm going to break this list down even a little more here. So we're going to just go meta, easiest to hardest, E to H. We're going to move all of these up here. Then meta, sub meta. The sub meta is going to be the sub meta is going to be not like submachine gun meta. This is going to be like the guns that are like you could use them and get away with it. You know what I mean? Like the Street Sweeper, like the Bullfrog, like the Modern Warfare MP5, like the M4A1. The Stoner fits in there. The Amati not quite. HDR fits in there. So I think that's what we're gonna do there. The Grau still probably fits in there in my opinion. We'll keep it in there. Not quite meta. Not meta. Off meta. Okay, this looks better. So this is easiest to hardest. We're gonna go easiest to hardest now. Let's just make sure. Let's go over this list. So we got Gallo, super easy to use. It's gonna be meta. I think it's meta right now. It's super easy to use. If you're using it in duos and trios or less, you're not gonna have a problem. Run a throwing knife to finish your downs. Don't worry about your fulls. Mac 10, same thing. This might honestly. I don't know. Okay, so yeah, we'll keep it here. All right, and then FFAR. The MP5 is probably easier than these down here, I would say. The Cold War MP5 just has such a fast time to kill if you get really good with it. The gun's insane. FFAR, obviously, like the best gun in the game right now. AUG right there with it. Car 98, I'm just going to put up here. I'm going to put the AMAX up here too, actually, because I think the AUG, M16, and DMR are all super good. I honestly, like, let's put this down here. The DMR is hard to use, and we'll put it in the sub meta. I don't think it's quite as good as the AUG and the M16 anymore, but it'll sit there. Street Sweeper, nasty. It's basically the Gallo of the Street Sweeper. The only problem with the Street Sweeper is the mobility is a little worse, and it just takes forever to reload. Like the Gallo takes a long time, but the Street Sweeper takes forever. Actually, for that reason, I'm going to put it behind the Bullfrog, because the Bullfrog's super easy to use. It's really good, has a fast time to kill, and it has like 85 rounds, so you can literally 1v4 an entire team and almost get the fulls on them all if you hit headshots on them. So. And then I think for the same reason, I'm going to put the Modern Warfare MP5. The Modern Warfare MP5 hasn't got a nerf in a while. It's still really good. It still shreds through people. And I think people just sleep on it for some reason. People just stopped using it unless you're like a diehard like MP5 user. Not quite meta. Yeah, the Jack 12, the AS Val, LC10. These are, I think this is a good order. The SPR actually needs to go up here. The SPR is really easy to use compared to like the HDR, and it fits in that range between the Kar 98K and the HDR. And if you're a good sniper, even if you're a new player, the SPR is super easy to use. It has really good bullet velocity. You don't have to lead your shots very much. So yeah, I think actually, yeah, that's probably good right there. M4 is really good, like I said. XM4, AK because of the recoil, LC10, the Bullfrog just does it better. So yep, not quite meta. The Val because of the 30 round. If that thing had a 45 round or even 40 round clip, the Val would be so good. It just shreds people, and it's pretty accurate. It has pretty low recoil too. Easy to control recoil at least. Jack 12, it's a shotgun, man. It's gonna be the easiest to use. Yep, MP7, a little harder to use. Kilo, Grauer, harder to use now. PKM because the reload time's harder to use. AK-47 because of the recoil. Diamati's because it's a pistol. You don't have quite the range. AX-50, Tundra, Pellington, these are all about the same difficulty. The only problem with these two right now, the Tundra and the Pellington, is that the ADS time is so weird and slow without putting that 4x scope on, so you don't get quite the visual zoom. It just looks weird to me trying to snipe with these. I've hit some good shots with them before, and I'm sure people can hit their shots, but the Farah, yeah, this is fine. The Farah has more recoil than the Ram 7 though. I'm gonna swap those. Farah's just really hard to use, I think. It's just you gotta find the right build. It's not as mobile. The reload time's terrible. And then we got not meta, off meta. We can put the M13 up here actually. We'll put it right behind the Kilo. The M13 is not quite meta, but it's not off meta. I would say that you can use it. These guns right here are ones that I would use and can use and think you'd have success with competing against this stuff. Nothing beats the FFAR right now. Nothing beats the AUG and the M16 for time to kill. But you can compete with them if you shoot better. So, and then the not meta, off meta, we'll put the shotguns there. The R9's like, I mean, it's a shotgun. Fuck it. We'll put all the shotguns at the beginning, honestly. And then the QBZ is really easy to use. The Uzi is a little more difficult. Honestly, all of this could be flip-flopped however your personal preference is based on how good you are with the gun. I mean, it goes all the way down to the Type 63 even, honestly. Like, the Type 63 is pretty hard to use. It's semi-auto. The M82 is the same thing. Renetti M19, if you use these dual wield and you're good with them, they're good. If not, they're bad. And then the rest of the stuff we don't have to talk about. So that's my ranking. That took a solid half hour. I am going to call it a night. My throat hurts. I've talked way too much. I should not have done this again. But thank you for watching. Have a good evening.